Hi,
Hey.
everyone. Welcome to How Are the Children podcast, where we look at the text through the lens of the childist interpretive, biblical interpretive lens. And I am Pastor Bridgette Weir, St. Matthew Lutheran in Taylorsville, Utah.
Pastor Lita Behrens, Our Savior's Lutheran in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Nice. So today we are looking at the fourth Sunday it's in Easter, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in Easter, and that is the Good Shepherd Sunday, although it's more about being a good gate. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that, or a good door. We're
Yes.
going to talk about that a little bit. And as we get started today, we just want to ask you how you are. How are you as a child of God this day? And we hope that you are well and thriving and all those things that God wants for us, life and life abundant, as Jesus says in today's text. So as we get going here, I'll pull up the PowerPoint. And yeah, there we go. So again, we're going to identify where the children are, analyzing the context, doing that a little bit today. Agency is also something we're going to hit today, as well as some metaphors. So those are some pieces that kind of resonated with me. So the text, John 10, verses 1 through 10. Lita, do you want to read that for us?
Sure. Very truly, I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit.
Sorry.
That's okay. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them.
Right.
So again, Jesus said to them, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who come before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly.
Thanks. So I just want to note our supportive texts this week are Psalm 23
Mhm.
and Acts 2:42 through 47, where the community shared all things in common. And I'm going to pull on that. I pulled on that a little bit in one of the slides.
Mhm.
Um, this language of gate, we get it in 5 verses.
Yeah, a lot.
I am the gate. And it actually doesn't mean gate, it means door. I looked and I didn't see anything that says gate. And the interpretive
Hmm.
take on that was that it's a sheep pen. And in our context, we think of a gate because we think of some sort of chain link fence or some sort of bars, right? The what we see at
Okay.
you know, um, cattle pens. So we think of it that way, but it's really a door, which is a liminal space, right? Thresholds
Hmm.
in Celtic theology and in the ancient world were very powerful in symbolism and very powerful in ancient thinking as far as it's a real change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyone that has walked through a door and forgotten why they went into the next room can kind of testify
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah. And I suppose that's similar with gates. You could consider them a threshold, but
True.
I do think of it more with the word door.
Yeah, like a portal, right?
Hmm.
Um, Gates feel very open and almost arbitrary a bit, but um, as far as kids go, if you're a parent or you've worked in childcare or you've had to keep a niece or a nephew or a nibbling or somebody for any length of time, you might have wished you could corral them.
Yeah.
Um, and many of us did have gates when our kids for safety, right? Gates
Hmm.
in front of the stairs or at the bottom of the stairs or top of the stairs or whatever.
Hmm.
we lived in a three-story townhouse when we first moved to Portland in 2000, and the kids were 3 and 12 months. I called it Gate World
Yeah.
because I was constantly climbing over a gate. I could have been a hurdler at night. But it's a safety mechanism that keeps them out or them in and other things out, or vice versa.
hmm
Um, it limits where they can go and allows the adult to know when they come and go, right? So
Right.
Jesus knows when we come and go,
hmm
which I thought was interesting to think about.
I
Um,
just today was with a toddler and we have one of those half doors
yeah, Dutch doors.
of our playroom. But he figured out how to open it
Oh, lovely.
because it's
I thought
just
you were
a
going to say scale it, which was going to be more
no, that was
impressive.
my son, but
Yeah.
no, he kind of figured out how to move the handle enough that he could. And then,
Oh, it's a pull handle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I got the little side eye and he ran. It was pretty cute. Like, I still knew he
Yeah.
left, but
Right. You still, I mean, we give Jesus the side eye a lot.
but
You know,
yeah, yeah, he wanted a little more freedom there.
yeah. And it's all fine and good till we don't know where we are or we can't find our caring
Uh-huh.
adult. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because we often see this concept of closed doors as limiting our free will, or exclusive, right? Like trying to get
Yeah.
past a bouncer into the club. Not that I've done that ever, but I see it on TV.
Yeah, it's just something.
Um, and children do as well, right? They don't like closed doors, or they want to close all the doors. There's those kids too that get really creeped out by an open door, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But
hmm
and gates paradoxically can give them more freedom though,
Yeah,
right? I
'cause they
mean,
can see.
when we know they're safe, um,
They have
we
more
can,
freedom.
yeah, we have
hmm
freedom. They can do what they want because they're in a safe zone, and they have proximity to the caregiver, right, and what they need, which I think about in the context of Jesus as well. So,
hmm
it might be interesting to think about doors. As Lutherans, we have great history with doors, like nailing theses to them,
hmm
right? So, doors are also places where people gather and meet. So, you can kind of think about that community piece in relationship with Acts 2, right? There were some boundaries and they gathered in homes, indoors and, through doors. And so there was a sense of boundary within that community.
Yes.
And yeah, and that kind of led me to think about, when they're how often kids are in groups, right? School,
hmm
childcare, large families, on a play date or at the park where they
hmm
have to navigate one another.
Yeah, it's very, that's an interesting point.
And in parks well, some do, some don't. But like some parks, or if you take your kid to the elementary school to play, there's a fence with a gate you have to
Mm-hmm.
go through. So, there are ways that we have to navigate being in community with people we don't know, but are all in the same space once we pass through the gate. Um, that was kind of interesting to me. And I was reading in Christian Century what Amy Leach was writing about how, and I touch on this a little bit going forward, but how notice that there's not a hierarchy of sheep.
Mm.
And she was talking about how pastors are called shepherds, and
Yeah.
really
Okay.
we're not.
No, we're Australian shepherds.
Yes. And I read another article in the Christian Century that was published 14 years ago about their herding dog around this
Uh-huh.
text, right? Our job is to be the herder and point them to Jesus, take them to Jesus.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
because you've had a couple of herder dogs that
I have, and
they
that's what they do.
it is.
They keep and when my kids were little, Lola definitely, John would be bouncing up and down off the sidewalk and she would bark at him and nip him a little bit until he was on the sidewalk. She wanted him to
Right.
walk on the sidewalk, no jumping on and off.
Right. No off and on the curb into the street. Right. Yeah.
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 And if you've seen when I was in Ireland, we went to a sheep herder farm or a sheep farm, and they demonstrated
Yeah.
the herding dog. And
So cool.
it was amazing. And in Ireland, there's not really predators.
Mm-mm.
So they do have these hills that the sheep are on all, well, like spring and summer, right? And the dogs just take care of them and keep them in their areas. Um, and then when the farmer says it's time to round them up, they listen to their dog. Because I remember asking him, do they really know your voice? Do they really know?
Mm.
And he said, yeah, for the most part,
Yeah.
because they share it's like these hills. And so, yeah, they get mixed up a little bit, but
The dogs know.
the dogs know, and the sheep know which dog is
Huh.
their dog.
Yeah, because sheep aren't the brightest light bulbs in the box,
No.
but they do have some instinct,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Same can be said of humans, right? We may not be the sharpest
Yeah.
animals, but
I do sometimes feel like this is the text where Jesus is like,
you're
you're not
adorable.
that bright. So
No. Yeah, let's go with your instinct. Let's go.
let's just, you just be over here. And
Yeah. I mean, and I sort of thought of this as another text where Jesus is telling us to be like children. It was one
hmm
of my other thoughts of this text. You could make some parallels there, right? Children really rely on instinct for a lot of their own survival until, their brain starts to develop a little more.
hmm
So, when you think about that, it got me thinking about how we might spend more time protecting our animals than we do our children. Um, and so, how we can think of this policy wise in our congregation, safe haven, background checks for volunteers. Um, because if we tell a child it's not a stranger, that's how they'll react. So
hmm
we have to be really careful with that.
Yeah,
Who
sure.
has access, which is tricky in a church. We
Mhm.
say, and we really mean, I truly, in my heart of hearts, all are wanted. And we have to also know that Jesus doesn't let the wolves in with the sheep,
Right.
right? So, how do we open doors for folks to be part of the community? How do we think about that with access to prosperity, education, economic opportunity, and those sorts of things? So, like,
hmm
how are we opening doors to let people through? Or are we being gatekeepers? That was the other tech word I didn't spend a ton of time with, but
Yeah.
we can be gatekeepers in the church in
We,
ways, yeah.
yeah, that aren't helpful.
No,
And so if Jesus is the gate, how do we talk about that?
the gatekeeper.
Yeah, Jesus is the gatekeeper then, right?
Well, Jesus says the gatekeeper lets them in.
Or just the gate?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't call himself the gatekeeper. I mean, not to take the
No.
text too literally, to put fine a point on it, but maybe the point is that okay, if you think you're the gatekeeper, who are you keeping out and who are you
hmm
letting in, and do you know my voice?
hmm
Right? And I
Yeah.
I was wondering if the gatekeeper's God could be. I mean, I
Oh,
know all of this is
right.
figure of speech, as Jesus says.
Well, I know. I love how it's like, well, it was a figure of speech, but we're not going to really tell you exactly what the figure of speech means.
Right.
Jesus is just going to say some more words.
Right. And then we're left to let those to live into them, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do think we're meant to ponder about gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, in our own churches, in our own institutions. how, who are we unintentionally excluding? Is the door not tall enough, wide enough, short enough, accessible enough, seen easily enough, right? What are the
Hmm.
accessibility pieces that we could be better gatekeepers? Keeping the gate, stewardship. What's the
Well,
stewardship?
yeah. And if we're pointing towards Jesus,
Right.
what are what is our role in that keeping up the
Hmm.
gate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
I didn't get a chance to go very deep, but that was one of the things I thought about too,
Yeah.
is the gatekeeper. Yeah, and you were excited about this part, the names,
Yes.
Jesus calling all the
I
names.
I just I love that that's brought in there in the
Yeah.
personal way. And as you mentioned with Dr. Lewis, that we have other places where this happens. Lazarus hears his name, Mary hears Jesus say her name, and that's when she recognizes him.
Hmm.
Um, and again, I was just with some little ones today, and like one, they're about 1 year old, and they've
Yeah.
definitely know their name,
Yeah.
and um, they definitely um, are attached to it and try to
Yeah.
say it and try to say my name. And
Right.
it's kind of it's a very relational piece
It is.
that we pick up really early.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think that Jesus knowing our name is where you can bring in that more personal side of it. Of faith, right?
Yeah.
Like we're in relationship with each other. And
Yep.
I often am telling adults, like, I want you to know 5 kids' names. And
Right.
I've started telling kids who are old enough,
Right.
I want you to know 5 adults' names
Yep.
that aren't your
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and just how although we have name tags, and in
Yeah.
the children's sermon last week, we had a guest preacher. And people were so impressed because he knew all their names. Well, they had their name
They were
tags
wearing
on,
them. Yeah.
except for one little girl put on our youth director's name tag to be funny. And so
That's not fair.
then people were calling her the wrong name. So it was kind of interesting, but just how, and we want to get names right. I feel like most people I
Yes.
know, when they hear a name that's not from our cultural knowledge or
Yep.
we see it spelled and we aren't sure how to say it.
Yep.
And when I've traveled, people really do want to say the name correctly.
Correctly. And when they get it right, because I have a name that's very hard to pronounce.
Hmm.
Well, it
It's
shouldn't
not
be,
hard to
but it is.
pronounce.
But it's it's mispronounced often, my first and last
Yeah.
name. And remember, we were at the airport in New Jersey. Where did we fly in from Italy? It was LaGuardia, Atlanta. It was Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
I'm like, it
I'm
was
like, where were
south.
we? I don't know. We were somewhere. Anyway, and she said we got coffee, and she said my name right. And remember,
Yes.
I about melted because I've never
Yes.
had a stranger get it right the first time.
Yes.
Never, not once. And it was somebody ethnically different than I was, and I was like, there's something to that. The name is personal, even if we have two little girls now at church who have the same name,
Uh-huh.
and it's still just joy. They love having this. I mean, there's this instant little zing of a
Yeah.
connection
We have the same name. Yeah.
that they love. And there is something deeply relational and joyous about hearing your name
Hmm.
um, and having it said correctly, to your point.
Yeah.
And, and I think about that in terms of the sheep hearing, they can hear the intonation, it's the pitch, it's the way, the cadence of
Hmm.
Jesus' voice, right? I think about how we can hear distinctive voices on the radio and know exactly who it is.
Hmm.
So there's pieces of that as well as our name. It's also the voice saying it. It's very different when a stranger says our name than a loved one, than a beloved, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so when we say each other's names and can say it with love, or if it's a child and you need to yell it across the playground, there's that too. But that tone of voice, right? That kid straightens up real quick because,
That's
you know,
right.
sometimes I think Jesus does that to us too. He just yells our
Yeah.
name across the cosmos to straighten up.
Straighten up.
Um, yeah. So I think there's something really um, there's just something embodied in our names that is cellular that we respond to.
Yeah.
So yeah, um, yeah, because you know, and yeah, when kids hear their name said incorrectly, you'll hear about it.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, right. Um,
Mine was always said wrong too.
yeah, Letta.
Still is, Letta.
Yeah, Bridget and Letta. Um, so yeah, and then there's the stranger piece that, you know, I don't know how much we would you would want to go into that in a sermon, but it's something to pay attention to. How you, as parents, as caregivers, as leaders in a congregation, there are, depending how big your congregation is, there will be a lot of adults that will be strangers to
Yeah.
kids. And so, you know, how do we navigate that in a caring community?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and in a like in a congregation my size, I wouldn't there could be people I don't know there,
yeah,
you know, any given week. Um, so there's still like boundary keeping and
yeah,
gatekeeping of those who are vulnerable.
yeah. And
Awareness. Yeah.
yeah, and along with that, we teach children not to go with strangers, right? Don't get into
Hmm.
the windowless van because they have a puppy. Um,
Hmm.
but adults are terrible at that advice. Like we
Yeah.
follow strangers all the time on our social media,
Uh-huh.
on
And
on
believe them. Like I hear
and
people
believe them.
quoting people like you don't even know if this is a robot or a human.
Well, not anymore. You don't, right?
No,
With
you
AI,
don't. Yeah.
and and we take what we see on these devices as gospel truth, even
Hmm.
if what we're hearing is clearly not Jesus' voice,
Yes. I
right?
think that's a great sermon direction.
Yeah, I think I'm not preaching, but if I were,
I'm not either, but
yeah, I think that's the direction I would go to, right? Like why do some people vote or act against their own self-interest? They intentionally follow the voice that is a strange voice and a harmful voice. Like they're not able to hear the cadence and the intonation and the message of
yeah.
Jesus, the shepherd, in the midst of all the other sheep trying to get their attention. Because the other point of this is we're all sheep
Hmm.
in this, right? We're all
Hmm.
in this together. We're all in this
Yeah.
pen together. So are we going to follow the wolf off the side of the cliff? Actually, I'm thinking of the swine right now, right? Jump, you know. But are
Yeah.
we going to do that? Like, you know, my mother used to say to me, I don't know if this is helpful, but you know, if all your friends are jumping off a cliff, would you do
Uh-huh.
that too? Right? I
Yeah.
mean, I know it. I don't know that that's a
I
good.
remember and I kind of went, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
That's
Yeah,
a good question. I think I'm supposed to say no.
I think the answer is no. But like, can people even name their own self-interest? Can I name my own self-interest? Right?
Yeah, probably not every time, you
Right.
know?
Right. Because things come up that we haven't thought about.
Hmm.
So what's the voice we're going to listen for?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you start to think about your social media feeds in that way, boy, I don't think we would listen to as many people as we do.
Probably not.
Yeah. And I
I don't
also
know.
think again this what we can name, thinking about our own, can we name our self-interest? What we can name, we can know deeply, right? So Jesus names us and knows us deeply. If we can name our values, right, of care, compassion, mercy, then we can know those deeply. And I think there could be a sermon direction in that as well. What do we what do we name? Like we
Mhm.
name our children, we name, and sometimes people rename themselves to
Yeah.
match who they are,
Hmm.
and right, and because they have known themselves more deeply and know
Hmm.
that they have another name. So I
Yeah.
think there's a sermon direction there as well that we could talk about. This abiding, this meno, right, in the Greek, the
Yeah.
abiding. Oh, and then I got sidetracked by the word abundant. Sorry. I
Oh, that's
this
great.
was this was very exciting to me. I don't know why. So, right, perissos means more than what is necessary, not just getting by. And so that was which, you sort of like think about abundant, duh, more than necessary, but we don't use that language, right? And so much in our society is set up to ensure that folks can just get by. But when we're all sheep, when we realize we're all sheep, not a one of us is a better sheep than the other, right?
Hmm.
Who's the best sheep? Um, so,
No
there's no,
VIS.
yeah, I
Yeah.
stole that from her. That's from Amy
Yeah.
Leach.
That's cute.
Right? No VIPs, no VISs. Then there's enough for all, right? And
Yeah.
so abundance is that there's more than enough to than just getting by for all. It's not that we tend to eschew any excess, and it's almost like we need to play with that a little bit. It's like
Hmm.
excess isn't necessarily the problem. It's that if we have excess and nobody else does or barely has enough, then that's not true
Right.
abundance. And I think that's where this could pair with the Acts 2.
Hmm.
And there's lots of great scholarship on that where, were they really that egalitarian and communal and all that? Or was it aspirational or did it last a
Sure.
hot minute? Or, I mean,
Sure.
there are societies, groups of people, right? Monks, and there are places that this happens. Um, but the idea is that we're not competing for the greenest pastures, right? To pull in the psalm a little bit.
Hmm.
It's not a competition. There's enough green pasture for everyone. Um, and
Yeah.
then we talked
There
about
actually is.
there actually is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there actually is, Jesus says. And then we talked a little bit about if our title is pastor, this passage can help us get off the hook.
Yeah, I've started, it's been a
Jesus is.
new thing lately, people saying things like referring to my flock.
Yeah, I've heard that language too lately. That
And I don't like it.
I don't either.
And I've been trying to figure out like what's making me uncomfortable. And I think it's
Yeah, nope.
this
It's
idea that
Jesus flock.
Jesus is the shepherd. So,
Unless it's the flock of seagulls, great band. Um, but right, I mean, we are like the herder dog, and there's another great Christian Century article on that, where he talks about his herder dog. I think it was
oh, cool. I'll have to
Austrian.
find that one.
Yeah, and it's a really great article, where he talks about, yeah, and these herder dogs, they do what they do. And he also in that article talked about herder dogs when they see a threat will lay low, will get totally flat
Hmm.
because they're trying to assess.
Hmm.
And so how can we do that as a herder dog? Like we see that person coming across to us at fellowship hour with that look on their face. How do we take a minute to lay flat and assess, right?
Yes,
Right?
I
Yeah,
see your
we sploot, right? Is that we sploot? No. I had that image though. I'm like, here's Bridget in the fellowship hall splooting. I don't really have that problem though, but I mean, in
down, get
anything,
down.
in anything, right? An email, but how is it we take a beat?
Hmm.
and like a herder dog and be like, is this really a threat? Or is this something that I can chase away? Are the sheep going to
Hmm.
ignore it? Yeah. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we round, oh, I, who round, yeah, round people up to go to the good shepherd. We take them to the good shepherd, right? We're like,
Yeah.
um, tally
Take
ho,
him to the gate.
take them to the gate, take them to the door. And so, yeah, again, I really think you could do a beautiful sermon on John 10 and Acts 2 this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, right, I think, a good children's sermon could be we call them by name.
Yes.
And that's how the children are. They are well when we call them by name.
They're well when we call them by name.
Yeah. So
Love
that's
that.
kind of, yeah. But any other thoughts?
No, I think this could be a really fun text to,
I know I'm kind of sad I'm not preaching.
I know. I'm like,
I won't lie, dear listeners, I struggled writing this last one. I was on the struggle bus.
oh my gosh.
I went with the Acts text and I was on the struggle bus.
Oh,
And
I
if you
didn't
want to
even go.
see how badly, you can find it on my blog because on the struggle bus. I,
Yeah, this week I didn't do Acts, but I still was just like, oh, I don't
maybe we're just
know.
still tired from Easter. I don't know.
Maybe.
But like I went with the repent and change your mind, and
Mhm.
I was all over the place. And I mean, I finally shortened it up. So I'm like, well, if it's not going to be good, it can at least be short.
It can at least be
I,
short.
I mean, I liked my children's sermon. I thought that was okay.
Yeah, I had the kind of the same thing this week, but
But yeah, maybe it's just the third week is the we're really tired and okay, yeah, we're still on Jesus. Yeah, I don't know, but I was totally on the struggle bus. I was like Saturday night rewriting big chunks and Sunday
oh,
morning.
I have a 4:30 service, so
Yeah. Yeah,
Saturday at 2:30 I
right.
was trying to finish it and then I reworked it a little bit for Sunday morning. I kind of did the same like cut like okay, well it was too long.
Yeah, it can't be good. It's gonna be short. I mean, like nobody was harmed, but
No.
it was really hard to be cohesive because there
Yeah.
was so dang much. I love the story to Emmaus, but it's a better Bible study than preaching text, I think,
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
some of it. Those really long stories are not great preaching texts, I think.
Hmm.
And maybe the response to that is then do a Bible study and name it instead of preaching.
Yeah.
And maybe wrap it
Yeah.
up with one nugget of good news, right? That's which is
Hmm.
still proclamation, but I've been wondering about that when we get these really long
Hmm.
stories because there's just too much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then and the Acts one has the hint of what could be anti-Semitism, and so I wanted to really address that. And yeah, anyway. So if you were on the struggle bus, welcome. There's room for all on our bus, and we pick up every Saturday night,
Every Saturday night.
and we'll drive around till we figure it out. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining
Yeah, thanks for
us,
joining us.
and we hope you have a great week. We hope it comes together, may it come together by Wednesday afternoon for you.
That's right. That's
That's what
right.
we pray. And we will see you next week where we will be in the same room.
We will. It's very
Watch out.
exciting.
You won't want to miss that. So
That's right.
thank you all, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.